Okay, so we have here a lot of the different artwork that was done using Yupo paper, which is a paper that's really great. And we're just going to be showing you sort of the artistic side, or maybe the abstract art side of using these tools today. I'm going to start off showing one of the pieces, and I'm going to do one. This is a piece that was done just freehand towards the end of one of the shows using one of the tools here. This one here, and another tool that I had. This is the tool I was using, just to show you. It's one of our tools, only I have incised the edge so that we get these lovely wiggly lines. So I'm going to play with these and some acrylic paint. Freezer paper, it's got a glossy side, and the other side, which you can't see right now, you can see good. This is paper, so and I'll probably go through 3 sheets of this. And I'm going to start with just a big blob of this Payne's Gray. Just going to grab one of the tools. So it's interesting because I can actually see where I am, because I now have a monitor. Before I couldn't see what was happening with my work. So as you can see, I'm just almost going faster than I can, well, I am going faster than I can think. It's like my hand is thinking for me. But I'm starting to get some pretty interesting marks here. That's the 2 inch, okay. And the way I clean that, just to show you the full process, I just take a damp rag that I've prepared. And so now it's completely clean, unlike a brush, using it for the same sort of tool. Now I'm just going to take one of my incised tools. So that's another one that I've made. I only have one of each of these, and when I need one, I make one. And I don't really tend to be very regular about how this is actually a better one of it, an example of what I make. I really like it. Anyway, so here's a mark here. So that's just playing with these marks. And once again, cleaning it off. I might put a different color on there. It's just very little purple in here. This is a magenta. I haven't used it very much. I'm going to go back and ooh, it's a pretty color. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Haven't used it for a while, obviously. Okay, so you'll notice I can spread, this is a 2.5 inch. I can spread paint quite thickly. I get the mass tone here, which is the real color of the paint. And then when I spread it out, you get the magenta, which is, magentas in this case, these are artist grade professional paints. So they are true to their color. And this is a quinacridone magenta, which means that it's transparent. And I'm just looking at it. Now I can scrape right off. This is what you'd use for cleaning your palette or something like that. And let's just play with it and see what kind of marks we can make. So I didn't realize that magenta was so pretty. I have a tendency to mix colors on the palette and then they all turn out green. I don't know why that happens. I think it's because I like yellow and blue. So that would be green. So there's a mark very similar to the marks that were in that show that you just watched, which we call Flamingo Land. And we do live in the land of flamingos. We live on the north coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. And we have flamingos. We don't see all of them, but they fly by every day, usually at a distance. But behind us, about 600 meters, I think, we have a mangrove swamp, and there are flamingos there. So those are curvy lines. So that's one of the more complex lines I've learned to use. So you can see you can start to develop your own marks that can give character to your work that you might not have thought was possible. See, so that's one of the fancy abstract paintings. I think I'll just leave that one. That's number 1. I'm going to clean this off now and show you how quick it is to clean. And I'm going to put another fresh sheet down and we'll use some different colors. Our mottlers are clean, so I'm going to use, these 2 colors are both One is cerulean blue and the other one is a blue-green, and they're both opaque colors. And we're going to play maybe with a little bit of this. I think it's beautiful. It's an Indian yellow. That's what it's called, and it's a transparent paint. And I'm just going to start by, so I did that. I don't want to mix all the colors up this time because we would end up with sort of a, probably something very mucky. I like this blue. I think I need some red. Now, not everything is going to turn out like a wonderful picture. When I'm doing these, I like to put areas of flat color. What's going on here is that they're turning out green. I think I mentioned a little while ago that often when I do this, my things turn out green. Let's see if we can make it. Oh yeah, that's pretty. I'll put some more yellow up here. Okay. So one of the marks I'm going to make right now is just little marks in here, maybe something in there. I'm keeping a background of this sort of spaghetti marks. And I might, let's see, ooh, I like that color. So sometimes I like the color that I lay on top, and sometimes I like the color that I pull through. And it'll vary depending on what's going on. Ooh. So I can go in and just take some of this stuff and put it back on if I want to. Which, if you see one that I've done that's called the bridge, the key to doing this is to stop when you still like it. So this time I'm going to play with this one I like quite a bit, and my favorite red, which is quinacridone red. And we might use a bit of magenta. You don't have to do it this way. You could put one out on that first paper that I showed you. I'm just playing with this because I know this magenta's pretty. I don't know about this yellow, but I know one thing I'm not going to get from this one is I am not going to get green because there is no blue here. Well, there's a little bit of blue in that magenta, but it will not be enough to make it green. I'm going to show you a few things with this one later because today I've basically decided to demonstrate maybe 3 of 4 different things or something. So that is the big parallel line maker. In order to make it interesting, I think you really have to chop it up a bit and put other types of marks on there, like something like that, or maybe like that. And I'm just pulling this out of my head right now, not even sure whether it goes through my head. I'm just basically moving my hand. And so you can see. So that one looks a little different than the other one. So I might take one of these smaller brushes and pull this across here, or even down here, or there. Might scrape through this way. I could even put in some wiggly lines. I'm almost going so fast I can't tell you what I'm looking at, but it was getting too dense up there, a little bit lighter down here. I really would like to bring some of this magenta in here. And there it is. I think I'm getting close because I really like this dark, dark magenta. So I may just put some of that around in different places. Ooh, magenta. Ooh. Oops. So when you're making these marks, remember I'm an abstract painter. I'm not really trying to make anything other than make something that either I haven't seen before, which is more often, or it could be something that pleases my eye, like X's and O's. So I'm just gonna erase that. I just want to take something like this and go. Which is sort of one of the things, one of the marks I resort to when it's like a flag mark. And that gives me another layer. And they're often diagonal, but not always. But I mean, if you go sideways, it's not diagonal. And then I will probably even go in and do a little bit of this if I see a color that I think I might like to have show up a bit more. But I even don't really think that much about that sort of stuff. I'm gonna bring it in, pull it there, or so it's not so much of an outlier. Let's take some of this magenta. So when I get to the point where I'm going, let's do this, let's do that, it's probably past the point which I should have left it. So now we're going to move on to, I will show you right now, we're going to be doing something very similar to this. We will be doing it on flat Yupo paper. So this is another example of what I just showed you. I have been doing these on these boards. This one needs a little bit of finishing on the back. It's a three-dimensional painting with acrylic gel, a heavy acrylic gel, metallic paint. So in this case, this would be a gold paint, red added to it. And I'll just show that to you. Here's one of them. So, oh, it looks like I didn't mix it up properly. This is a heavy gel, and it's gold paint, and it's got a bit of a red tint in it. And that is exactly the one that was used for that red one I just showed you. And what it involves is just basically globbing it on a black piece of paper. And in this case, I painted some Yupo paper, which is a very nice surface for these. And I'm going to just do that one. Oops, I hope that's not too much. What's really important here is the gel, because you can use a very little amount of a quality acrylic paint. This is a gold paint, and I'll just put a little bit here so you can see it. This has been diluted many, many times with a pure white, thick white gel. So here's the thick white gel. Now, notice that it looks white, but it dries absolutely clear. And so what this gel does is suspends the colors and the metallic particles so that they're far enough apart you can still see them. It looks really, really rich, even though you have diluted it quite a lot with the gel. I'm just going to mix that little bit in there. It's not really going to make a difference because usually by the time I'm finished, I've mixed quite a lot now. Notice that when I scrape right through, you can see the black background. And that's what gives this sort of technique its distinctive look, is that you can scrape through to a very different color. And so it's basically a scrape through method. So I've got this one that's very regular, and what you'll notice is that the innies are equal to the outies. This is handmade, and I made it out of an older silicone tool that I had, not one of my new really good ones. And so it's a little brittle, and it also looks like I measured it. So if anybody's going, ah, oh my God. So you can see what a nice straight line that gives. Right? Okay. Bumps are equal to the black parts. So this one here, which is made quite differently, when I scrape through it, you notice here, let's just put this here. Okay. So if you look at the incisions, they're very narrow along the blade. The hole, the opening is much larger. What we're going to get is smaller black lines and bigger red gold lines. So that's basically what we get here. We get one really beautiful big one, but generally the black lines are much smaller. Okay, and I'm going to take this off of here, set it aside, and I'm just going to show you what I normally do to do these, and it should work out just great. So I like to go right over the edges, but not until I get pretty close to. I like my painting to be something that looks like it extends beyond the surface. Now that's not got anything to do with what's right or wrong. That's only got to do with my own personal preference. So that's something, if you decide to do this, you have to decide what you like. See, so I like to go like, and I don't even like that sort of jumpy curve there. I like my swirls to be soft, and I have one big hole here that leaves a really big lump, and I'm okay with that, but if it starts to get just too much of the attention, I'm not crazy about it. So And I can make marks like this, which I just figured out last time. And I don't want to leave too much along the edge. See, that I don't care for that, so that's why I would go over it. And look at these big swinging bits of... So this is another case where you go until it looks acceptable to your eye or acceptable to your feeling. Like the first time I got these, I just liked it so much. I didn't look at the edges or anything, and now I look at say I would be very unhappy with that. Now I look at all of these things. So it's a process to get what you want. And I don't know how many of these I can do today. Oh, yeah, I guess I can do another one. Let's just see. I wonder what would happen if I just put in a 1 or 2 of sort of different sizes and sort of... Oh, that looks too busy, doesn't it? Actually, I don't mind it. I could try this too. This is a very complex one compared to the other ones I've done. It's hard to tell what the edges are like when you've got it down. So sometimes you have to lift it. I think I'm going to leave this the way it is. It's acceptable to me. And we're going to try. Let's try it this way. This is a stainless steel. And now it just looks like a mooky blue. I'm wondering what it's going to look like when it's dry. So this is going to look very dark on dark, I think. Oh yeah, very dark on dark. I will do this because I want to see what it looks like, but I don't think it's going to be the prettiest thing for me to do on camera. And I'm not sure whether that's enough. If I wanted to, I could just add some more of the pure silver, but I don't have any silver mixed up with the actually I like the black edge. Too bad I put that over there. That doesn't mean I can't. Whoops, a little bit of gold got on there. So I'm just thinking I wouldn't mind going around the edge and so sort of have a black edge, but I'm not sure that's going to work. So I'm probably going to abandon that, but working with this stuff is a little muckier than working with what we were working with before. So let's just see. Now, you don't have to do these swirly things. I'm just enamored of the swirly things right now. So when I'm painting, it seems like I become a different person a little bit. And I'm just going to leave that like that. We'll have a chance to look at it next day. I was thinking of adding gold to it, but I didn't. Thank you. This is an example of a poured painting. That's very similar to the one we just looked at. Here we go. You start with I've only seen it done with acrylics. I've seen it done with all different kinds of acrylics, very cheap acrylics. I personally use artist grade acrylics, but I did start using just very inexpensive things. And the acrylics are diluted, so I'm just adding a bit of gloss to this one. And there's formulas and all kinds of stuff, but you really don't have to spend a lot of money to get started in it. It can be very inexpensive. It can be quite exciting because you get to see something that's more than what you would expect. Treadmill belt lubricant. And apparently it causes bubbles. Now, I may be putting it in the wrong thing right there. I don't know. And you just pour these paints in. They should be about the same viscosity as the white. And I'm not sure whether you even have to use white. So if we have enough time today, we might do another quick one. It tends to be pretty messy, but I am prepared to do two. And the result is really a result of the differences, I think it's called specific gravity, the differences in the mass. I think it is the specific gravity. So some things are heavier than others. So some of these, they'll mix differently according to their weights. So I put in the magenta, which I liked, and I put in a dark blue. I'm now putting in the Indian yellow, so that's probably taking quite a chance. So let's put some blue in. So sometimes they turn out really interesting and they flow right off the sides. As you get more experienced, That's some red. I'm going to just give it a couple of taps. And I'm also thinking I might put a little bit of white, just pour it over the top. That'll mix it up a little bit. I do use my tools mostly for cleaning up. I don't usually stir them, but I've been a little bit worried about the fact that they weren't moving through there. I will show you how I do this business with the little cups and on another program. It has to be raised above what is below it. So let's just see what happens here. I haven't been terribly successful doing these. I think I've had maybe two out of three turn out really well. Oh, look at, so most of my color is over on that side. So I'm just going to let most of that go off, because I like this part up here. I added quite a lot more fluid this time than I normally do. Oh, look at those. These are starting to look a little interesting now. Okay, so I got the top, I got it covered. So you can take your cup and maybe, you can also take the stuff that you've dribbled down the sides. I usually use these little tools here to make sure that it has gone right over the edge. When I make my own, or when I did them a couple of years ago, what I did is I covered them with acrylic resin after. So they became like little glass objects. I'll show you one right here. This is one of my favorite ones. Ooh, that blue is drying so pretty. Wow. So this is one, and it's called A New World. It was done about 3 years ago. So this is the way it should be for going up, and it was a pour that I really, really like. This is 8 inches by 8 inches, and it's been made into huge paintings, and they could be made much larger because the resolution is so fine when you get a really good pour. So this is kind of a fun one, fun colors, and these are going to be shown on Abstract Art Canada as well. I'm pretty happy with this. This is the beginning of the art thing for me, because what I do when I have a decent pour is that I work into it, and I'm not quite sure whether this is dry enough yet or not. And the bubbles are probably caused by the fact that I added oil to it. I'm not sure, but I think that's what caused it. And if I do have areas that are very skimpy, I would like to use my own tools, but I have to actually use something like this. It's a little metal spatula, because it can get under the paint that's fallen below there. If I choose a color that sort of looks interesting, then I can do something with it. But what I like to do is take these sort of creatures, and I should clean off between, so that I'm bringing the gray out, not white, which is what I've done there. You could go like this between them. And so you're, I did a fair amount on that one that I just showed you that I did a few years ago. I made a lot of spines coming out from one of the globular creatures there. You'll see these spines came out. I made all of those. When I look at one of these, which is a poured painting, I look for where the artist has done something, because that's to me where it starts to be art. This is kind of an interesting area here. I don't want to exactly draw attention to that corner, so I'm going to go like that and draw attention to the corner. But that causes the paint to melt into each other. It will normally stay there. If you do it too soon, what will happen is that it will flow away. And now the other thing I'm going to do right now is take one of my other tools. So here's an area where I want to have some color in there. You want to make sure there's not a breaking edge along the side. So you just go and put a little bit of paint in there. If you're putting an epoxy on there, that'll affect it because you want it flat. So I just go along and I paint the sides, whichever has come off the edge. That's sort of standard for people who do these things. I used to tape them and then repaint them a different color, but I don't do that anymore. So I think it's part of the process to get the stuff off the sides and the stuff that falls down and put it on the sides. So there we go. Let's take it here, and we're going to go in and have a good look at it. So I'm going to turn it around a little bit. So you can see some of the interesting things that are happening. So there, you can see some of the things I was fooling around with. So that's the hand of the artist making those marks there. I could possibly do something like that over here. So I think that's a bit heavy, the way that comes in like that. So I'm going to do something there. I'm going to try and make that move in. What I just did was these marks along here. I started in the purple because that's where I thought it was too heavy, and I just moved out like that. And if I do it right, it should be, and I can do it at different levels, different layers. But I'm rinsing my, not rinsing, but wiping my brush between each one. So it's interesting that I have now these spiny things in my last. I didn't have all that many spiny things, but oh, I like that thing. So these are sometimes just fun to look at, to say, well, what was happening, and what it reminds me of. Probably around 11 or 12. I used to just love playing in mud puddles, and mud puddles reaching each other, and you know, the colors of the water flooding into different places and stuff like that. So that's kind of it. Okay.